Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss non-supplies wide notification or circular. That means transactions which are not treated as a supply of goods nor services which are covered by a notification or a circular. Remember, we have discussed Schedule 3, which is provided under the CGST Act. We already discussed in the previous video, so you can take this video as a continuation of that. So let's first discuss non-supplies notified via notification. So first is activities in relation to panchayat or municipal functions. So think of it like this. If the municipal authority cleans the street or maintains a park, is it doing any service? No, it is basically performing a constitutional duty as a public authority. So this activity was included by a notification to say it is non-supplies is to make sure that the core public services are not hit by GST. So where the government is acting as a government, then those services which are core public services are not subject to GST. But where the government acts like a businessman, then in those cases GST would apply. So basically there are a list of functions which have been mentioned in the constitution under article 243. So if it is providing those kind of services, then it is not subject to GST. Then second non-supply covered by a notification is grant of alcoholic liquor license. So the reason why it has been included is just very simple. There was an agreement between the state government and the central government, right? You know that alcoholic liquor for human consumption has been carved out of GST in the definition of GST. So there was an agreement between the state government and the central government that any license fee on alcoholic liquor, it is basically provided by the state government. So this thing will be out of the scope of GST. That was a written agreement. There is no precedence to it, why it happened, what has happened, but this is just a solo case, and any license fee on this will not be subject to GST. Note that any other licenses provided by the government, like mining license or any other license, they are all subject to GST except for alcoholic liquor license. Now let's discuss non-supplies, or that means supplies which are not treated as supply of goods nor services as clarified by way of circular. So first up is circular number 11/2017 IGST. So the core concept is that there should not be any IGST on the movement of conveyances under GST when it is made between distinct persons. So distinct persons we had already discussed earlier, but let me clarify you again on what do you mean by distinct persons. So if a business has branches in two different states, those branches are not treated as one single entity, as they have different GST numbers. Now they are treated as distinct persons, meaning in the eyes of GST law, the Delhi branch and the Mumbai branch are like two different suppliers. Normally, when two distinct persons, let's suppose Delhi head office and Mumbai branch, exchange anything, it is treated as supply, even if there is no consideration paid between them. And still IGST must be paid. Example, if the Delhi head office sends finished goods to Mumbai branch for sale and there is no consideration exchanged between them, still it will be treated as a taxable supply and IGST has to be payable. So now you can apply the same logic to conveyances also, let's say trucks or buses. So if a finished goods is going from Delhi HO to the Mumbai branch in a truck, right? The finished goods are going in a truck. Then even the truck movement should be considered as a supply between distinct persons and IGST should be payable, right? But this circular says, yes, if they are distinct persons, but moving a conveyance between them is not a supply. So what are the conveyances covered under this circular? They are basically trains, buses, trucks, tankers, trailers, vessels, containers, and aircrafts. And it has been said that when it is carrying any goods or passengers or both between distinct persons, such conveyances are not subject to IGST. Again, so let's suppose if a bus company is moving its buses from Delhi to Haryana for operations, then those buses, movement of those buses, any IGST will not apply. right? And then if there is any repairs or maintenance is happening, let's suppose a Delhi head office sends its truck to Mumbai office for servicing. So the movement of trucks from Delhi to Mumbai will not be subject to IGST if those conveyances are undergoing some servicing and the repairs and maintenance are undertaken on them. So these are the two situations where the circular has clarified that there should not be any IGST. There are certain exceptions also to this circular, so let's discuss them. So now if the Delhi head office sends the truck to Mumbai branch and the Mumbai branch sells that truck to a customer in Mumbai, then that Mumbai branch is acting as a distinct person buying from Delhi. In this case, the movement between the Delhi and the Mumbai branch will not be considered as covered under this circular. So the distinct person rule will kick in here. That means IGST will apply on those conveyances as well, even if it is moving between distinct persons without a consideration, because there is a further sale happening. There is a further supply happening in this case. So this circular protection of treating it as neither a supply of goods nor services will not be applicable. So if you have any further questions on this, let's take some MCQs in the other slides so that you can have more clarity on this circular. The first question is, a transport company moves a bus from its depot in Delhi to its depot in Uttar Pradesh for major repairs and maintenance. What is the correct tax treatment as per circular number 11/2017 IGST? A. The movement of bus is exempt from IGST and the repairs done are also exempt. B. The movement of the bus is treated as neither a supply nor a service, that is, no IGST. But the repairs and maintenance done on the bus are subject to applicable GST. C. Both the movement and the repairs are subject to IGST. D. The movement is subject to IGST but the repairs are exempt. So the correct answer is B. Why? The circular explicitly states that while the interstate movement of the conveyance for repairs is not a supply, the repairs and maintenance service itself is a taxable supply. Therefore, applicable CGST, SGST, IGST will be leviable on the repair services provided. So, next question, a company that is registered in two different states under GST, that is treated as distinct persons, sends an empty truck from its branch in Maharashtra to its branch in Gujarat for the purposes of loading and transporting goods. According to circular number 11/2017 IGST, how is this interstate movement of the truck treated? A. As a supply of goods and IGST is payable on its value. B. As a supply of service and IGST is payable on a notional value. C. As neither a supply of goods nor services and no IGST is payable. D. As an exempt supply but only if bond is furnished. So the correct answer is C. And what is the reason? The circular clarifies that the interstate movement of various modes of conveyance like bus, truck, trains, etc. between distinct persons for carrying goods and passengers is to be treated as neither a supply of goods nor a supply of service, making it not liable to IGST. The only exception is when the movement is for the further supply of the conveyance itself. Now let's discuss the second circular, that is circular number 21/2017 IGST. So this circular is a straightforward extension of the earlier circular 11/2017 IGST to cover specific category of goods. It clarifies that the same IGST exemption applies to interstate movement of rigs, tools, spares and all goods on wheels like cranes. So it includes certain category of goods also in that circular. It is basically rigs, tools, spares and all goods on wheels like cranes basically. So those are also part of this circular now. So this circular explicitly states that interstate movement of these specific goods when moved between distinct persons for operational purposes, it is not a supply of goods nor services. Consequently, no IGST is applicable on such movements. And the covered items are, we already discussed, rigs, which is used by the oil companies to drill into the ocean and take the oil out. Tools, spares and all goods on wheels like cranes. So this circular applies only when the movement is not for further supply of the same goods. So again, if there is no further selling of those things, then only this protection of non-supplies on these movement will be applicable. So if the movement is for the purpose of selling the rigs or crane or tools, etc., then IGST becomes applicable. Again, it also clarifies that any repairs undergone on these goods, then applicable taxes will be paid on that. Applicable GST will be paid on that. Similar as Circular 11/2017. Now let's discuss a very important circular by the government which has been issued in 2024, which was in relation to vouchers. So it has clarified the GST treatment of vouchers by way of this circular. Though this is a very late in which the government has issued the circular, because there was a lot of ambiguity earlier as to how the GST should be treated in case of vouchers. But now this has, even though it is late, but still it is a welcome move, and now the government has clarified a lot of scenarios and has really simplified the GST treatment of vouchers. So let's dig in. So what do you mean by vouchers? So let me give you an interesting way. Let's suppose you go to an amusement park. You have two choices. Either you pay 1,000 rupees at the gate and you go inside the amusement park, or second, you can buy a magic ticket from outside, and let's suppose maybe you are purchasing it from a shop and you got some offers or deals and you got that voucher, and then which after receiving that voucher you are now able to enter that amusement park. So the government is saying, will it be taxable, that voucher? Basically it will not be taxable. So in the first case where you paid 1,000 rupees and entered inside the amusement park, you paid some GST charges, right? And you entered the amusement park. In the second case where you have the magic ticket, where you got that magic ticket at the time of issuance of that magic ticket or the voucher, at that point of time there is no GST. Only when you redeem that voucher at the amusement park gate, at that point of time there will be GST applied on the services that you're availing of entering into the amusement park. So now let's discuss what are different types of voucher. First is a prepaid instrument, or you can call it as a PPI, and the second is not a PPI. So PPI is basically a payment instrument that facilitates purchase of goods and or services against the value stored in such instruments, and these prepaid instrument is recognized by the RBI. So for this, where this prepaid instrument is recognized by the RBI, it falls under a definition of money. So let's go back to the definition of money and see what it says under GST. So the definition of money as provided under section 275 of the CGST Act says that money means the legal Indian legal tender or any foreign currency, check, promissory note, bills of exchange, letter of credit, draft, pay order, traveler's check, money order, postal or electronic remittance, or any other instrument recognized by the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, when used as a consideration to settle an obligation or exchange with Indian legal tender of another denomination, but shall not include any currency that is held for its numismatic value. So you should read the words instrument recognized by the RBI is also falling under a definition of money. So now let's go back to our slide. So where a prepaid instrument is recognized as an instrument by an RBI, and you, based on that instrument, you can buy any goods and services or a list of goods and services against the value stored in that, then it is a money. And you know that as per the definition of goods and services, money is being kept outside of the definition of goods and services, and therefore it is excluded from the GST altogether. That means it is outside the scope of GST, as money is outside the scope of GST. Now what can be these kind of prepaid instruments? What are the examples? basic examples, say Amazon card, Paytm wallet card. These are all types of instruments which are recognized by RBI and against which you can buy a variety of goods and services. It's not tied to a specific goods and services, and therefore it is also akin to a general voucher. So this circular also differentiates between general voucher and a specific voucher. So these prepaid instruments are also kind of a general voucher. Now, what are not a PPI? That means a special type of voucher. So it is very specific in nature. That means the nature of the obligation of the suppliers to receive it as consideration or part consideration. That means a discount voucher can also come under this ambit. And assure the voucher holder to claim certain goods or services as specified in that voucher. So it is very specific. Like, you go to a local spa and you have that voucher, so you go, that it is linked to that spa voucher, so you can only get that service based on this voucher. So it is very specific, and you know what ultimate goods or services you are going to get out of it. And what are other type of examples, like free vouchers, discount vouchers, which are not a PPI or a specific vouchers examples. So now these vouchers, the government is saying, is basically an actionable claim. Basically, actionable claims are what? It is a right to claim something, right, which can be enforceable by the court. So this is akin to a actionable claim, or this is an actionable claim. And as per the Schedule 3 of the CGST Act, actionable claims are neither goods or services. So again, non-PPI or a specific voucher is also not subject to GST. So in a nutshell, basically it says that at the time of voucher issuance, there should not be any GST because these are outside the scope of GST. But when you redeem that voucher, then underlying goods or services that you are getting out of that voucher will have a specific GST rate, and that underlying goods and services will be subject to GST. So this is a major difference between the GST treatment in India and in some of the international countries. So in India, it is very simplified. It is saying that there should not be any GST at the time of voucher issuance. There should be GST only at the time when it is redeemed against a specific goods and services, and the GST rate of that goods and services will apply at that time, and which is a major difference between India's GST treatment and some of the international markets, where GST treatment differs a bit when it is a specific voucher case or not a PPI case. So in that case, where you already know that this voucher is tagged to a specific goods and services, they take GST at the time of voucher issuance itself in other countries. But in India, it says no, it is not subject to GST now because of being treated as actionable claims, and actionable claim is outside the scope of GST. And it will only be subject to GST when it is actually redeemed. Now let's discuss it further in next slides. The circular has also clarified the GST treatment on transactions and vouchers by distributors, sub-distributors, dealers and agents. So there are different treatments in these cases as well. So let's discuss it one by one. So there can be two ways in which the vouchers can be distributed usually. Okay, if the voucher is distributed on a principal to principal basis, that is P2P basis, or if the voucher is distributed on a principal to agent basis, that is P2A basis. So you have to look into the contractual agreement between the two parties to understand whether they are principal or an agent, whether they are getting the vouchers as a principal or they are getting it as an agent. Usually when there is a principal, that means that is complete sale and there is complete transfer of ownership of those vouchers, and all the risks along with that is being transferred to the purchaser. So there is a complete transfer of title of goods. But in case of principal to agent transfers, usually the ownership in a principal to agent transfers, the ownership never passes. The ownership always remains with the principal. The risk of it always remains with the principal. The agent only gets some sort of commission or a service for the services they have provided. So now let's understand it. What should be the GST treatment when there is a principal to principal transfer? As per the law, they say when there is a principal to principal transfer of vouchers, and basically sale of vouchers or issuance of vouchers is not a supply. We already discussed in the previous slide that sale of vouchers is not subject to GST. It is neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services. That's why the sale of vouchers on a principal to principal basis is not subject to GST, as it is not a supply. So therefore, the margin that the seller derives on selling those vouchers will be considered as a trading income of him, and that trading income is not subject to GST. Because voucher is not a good or a service, and therefore the margin that has been derived is not subject to GST. Now in case of principal to agent basis, if the principal sends to agent to distribute this or sell this vouchers onwards, then in that case the commission that that agent makes or derives because of that transaction, that is subject to GST, because any services or any fee received, any fee based service is basically always taxable under GST. This is the thumb rule. Any service which has been provided or any commission or fee earned because of that is subject to GST. Now let's discuss it or make it more clear with the help of a very simple example. Let me say you are a movie distributor and a big production house, or the principal which is making a blockbuster movie. Now the owner or the big B productions make 1,000 movie vouchers. Okay, so now they sell this 100 vouchers to Raj store for 800 rupees each at 20% discount. Now the Raj owns these vouchers now, and he sells them at 1,000 each to the ultimate customer. Now this 200 profit that Raj makes is known as the trading income, because now he becomes the owner of those vouchers. So he bought those vouchers. It's like buying any other product. Now if the voucher is expired or unsold, then Raj loses his money, because he takes all the risk with it, right? If it is not being sold by him to a third person, then whatever 800 he paid to the movie distributor or the production house will be lost or will be his loss. So he has assumed all the risks and responsibilities of it, and therefore it is on a principal to principal basis. And therefore, as per this, the GST treatment of this 200 profit that he makes on selling that 800 voucher, which is his cost price, and 1,000 rupees his selling price, that 200 rupees will become his trading income. Again, in case of movie distributor also, for the issuance of voucher to Raj will be his trading income, because voucher is not supply of goods and service. When this voucher is actually redeemed, then the GST, ultimate GST will be payable. Now same case, now it goes to the second route, where the production house assumes the risk and responsibilities at its own, and it just hires an agent to help him distribute the movie tickets. Now in this case, whatever the fee commission that agent earns is a taxable supply, and GST will be applicable on that, because that agent has not assumed the ownership or risk associated with not selling of those vouchers. So here it is a principal to agent relationship. So any fee earned due to that process will be subject to GST. We will take a lot of MCQs to give you more clarity on this topic so that you don't confuse. Now let's take some MCQs. First question. Fast Retail Private Limited sells gift vouchers of X brand on a principal to principal basis. They buy vouchers worth 1 lakh rupees for 92,000 and sell them for 1 lakh rupees. Additionally, they earn 5,000 rupees as a marketing fee from X brand for promoting these vouchers. What is taxable under GST? A. Only 8,000 rupees trading profit is taxable. B. Only the 5,000 marketing fee is taxable. C. Both 8,000 profit and 5,000 fee are taxable. D. Neither is taxable. So the correct answer is B. Trading profit on P2P voucher sale is not subject to GST, whilst the marketing fee is a service. It's a taxable service, so it will be taxable under GST. Now question 2. Mr. A buys a 1,000 rupees Amazon gift voucher from a retail store in Mumbai and sends it to his friend in Delhi as a birthday gift. What is the GST liability on this interstate movement of the voucher? A. IGST is applicable at 18% on 10,000 rupees as it is an interstate supply. B. CGST and SGST at 9% each is applicable as it is a supply of goods. C. No GST as transaction in voucher is neither supply of goods nor services. D. GST at 5% as it is a prepaid instrument. So the correct answer is C. Movement of voucher is not a supply. It is not a good nor a service. So no GST is applicable. Another example. Gift Voucher Limited sells 100 vouchers worth 5 lakh rupees. By the expiry date, vouchers worth 50,000 are never redeemed. How is this breakage income treated under GST? A. GST at 18% is payable on 50,000 as it is income. B. GST is payable only if the voucher was RBI approved. C. No GST is payable as no goods or services were supplied against it. D. GST is payable at 12% as it is a supply of services. So the correct answer is C. No GST is payable as no goods or services were supplied against it. As redemption, if it is an unredeemed coupon, then there is no supply. So the company keeps that free money. GST is not applicable as there was no underlying goods or services provided against it. But we will discuss in detail in the next slide on this breakage income, the GST treatment. Now let's discuss some further transactions relating to vouchers. One is additional services and the second is unredeemed vouchers or called breakage in GST. So let's discuss with the help of example first. Now let's suppose Domino's sells a 500 rupees pizza voucher to you. You redeem it and eat the pizza. Simple, you pay the GST on that pizza of 500 rupees and that is done. But what if the Domino's hires a famous influencer, let's call him Foodie Baba, and the Foodie Baba makes videos, puts the billboard and do all sorts of marketing for promoting that vouchers and that product and get 10,000 rupees from Domino's. Now Domino's also hires a tech solution limited to build a website for the voucher booking, or it does lot of services around the vouchers to build a voucher platform. Now the big question is, will GST apply on those services? Yes. Why? Whilst the voucher, the supply of voucher is not subject to GST because it is neither goods nor services, but any services surrounding that is subject to GST. Any marketing services or tech services or any fee or affiliate charge by any name, whatever it is called, will be subject to GST provided those supply conditions are met as talked about in section 7 of the CGST Act. So any services surrounding that is subject to GST, like advertisement, co-branding, customization services, technology support services, customer support services, all subject to GST. Now let's discuss about unredeemed vouchers or breakage. Breakage is basically it's voucher which has been unused or unredeemed at the end of the expiry date. Sometimes it happens, right? You got a voucher but you misplaced or you did not remember it and the time has been elapsed. So let's again in this Domino's example, let's suppose you buy 500 rupees Domino's voucher on 1st Jan and you get busy in exams and you forget about it, right? Now the voucher expires by 31st Jan. So now the Domino's keeps this 500 rupees with itself, right? Now that is your loss. So you have not redeemed it within the specific time limit. So this 500 rupees which has been unredeemed and it's kind of a breakage income for the Domino's, that is not subject to GST because the underlying goods or the underlying Domino's, the product, was not supplied. So sometimes the voucher remains unused or unredeemed at the end of their expiry period. In such cases, the business generally makes book adjustments and an account that said amount in its statement of income. So basically this type of income that it records in its books of account by way of book adjustments, it's called breakage. There were earlier ambiguities on how to treat this breakage income, whether GST will be applicable or not earlier. So here the circular clarifies that in case of breakage, there is no GST applicable on those vouchers because it was unredeemed. There was no underlying goods or services supplied against them. Because the ultimate product or the pizzas were not provided to you, there was no underlying goods or services done, and issuance or sale of vouchers just outside the scope of GST. It says that any unredeemed vouchers is not subject to GST. Now there is also a point of view that someone will argue that because this unredeemed voucher was a forbearance of an act. So here it has been clarified that the agreement to do or to refrain from an act should not be presumed to exist. It should be something that has been explicitly or implicitly implied by way of a contract, oral or written, to do or to abstain from doing something against payment of consideration for a taxable supply to exist. So there should be an explicit or implicit oral or written agreement to happen in order to abstain from doing something to make it a taxable supply. There should be an explicit agreement in beforehand. Here, when the vouchers are non-redeemed, you should not presume that there was an explicit agreement earlier. There was nothing at the time of voucher issuance that this won't be redeemed, and there was no underlying goods or services exchanged because of that voucher, and therefore it should not be under the scope of GST. Now let's take some questions. First is voucher itself, buying and selling. What should be the GST treatment? There should be no GST because it's not goods nor services. Then P2P trading profit on vouchers. What should be the GST treatment? Again, no GST as trading income is also not supply of goods nor services. Agent commission. It's always GST because all types of commissions and fees are taxable supplies and it is a service. Marketing tech services. Again, similar GST treatment. GST should apply as it is a taxable service. Unredeemed expired voucher. What should be the GST treatment? There should be no GST treatment as vouchers just got expired, which is not a supply of goods nor services. Again, redeemed voucher and you have purchased an actual item. Yeah, GST will be leviable and the rate should be as per the underlying goods and services that has been purchased from it. Now a question. Sweet Choco Private Limited issues 1 lakh rupees worth of gift vouchers. During the year, 90,000 vouchers are redeemed, that is chocolate supplied. 5,000 vouchers expire unused and they pay 2,000 rupees to an agency for social media promotion. What is the total GST liability? A. GST on 1 lakh rupees, that is all vouchers. B. GST only on 90,000 rupees, those are redeemed vouchers, plus GST on 2,000 rupees for promotion. And C. GST on 90,000 plus GST on 5,000 of expired vouchers plus GST on 2,000 rupees for promotion. D. GST only on 5,000 rupees of expired vouchers. So the correct answer is B. Redeemed chocolates will only be considered as a supply and GST will be applicable on that. Except and also promotion is also a service, so tax will be applied on that. And expired vouchers or unredeemed voucher is not a supply, so there should not be any tax. So that's all for today. Let's see you in next video. We'll be covering composite supplies and mixed supplies. That's it for today. I hope this makes the intention behind Para 4 crystal clear. If you found this helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more GST insights. Keep learning, keep growing. See you in the next video.